Hey guys, what's up? It's Tracy, and welcome back to my channel. Um, this is my bonus video that I decided to do in hopes to help others that may be grieving or have grieved a late pregnancy loss in any form or fashion. And I just want to share my experience and hoping to let other women know that they are not alone. So if this gets a little dark, I apologize, but what I went through was very, very traumatic, and I don't want others to suffer and feel alone like I did. So let me backtrack to 2018. 2018, I would say around May, we had found out we were pregnant. We lost that baby at 8 weeks. It was a very early loss. It was a bad experience, but I was able to handle it a lot better than I handled the second one. I got pregnant again almost immediately after recovering from the first loss. So needless to say, we were very scared because we didn't know what to expect, to see if anything was going to happen again, if I was going to have another early loss. So we get set up with a midwife, which I was wanting to do a home birth at the time. So I got set up with her, and we would check the heartbeat every visit, and everything seemed okay. 10-week ultrasound went by. Everything was great. The genetic screening all came back normal. No signs of any kind of concern. So we were like, okay, I think we're in the clear. We're out of the first trimester. Let's take care of this baby, and let's let it grow. And we found out it was another boy, because we already have one son. And we went on with the pregnancy, and we were going to do the 20-week anatomy scan and see how everything was progressing. My son by then knew. We waited until after the first trimester to tell him because of the first loss. We didn't want to tell him right away because we didn't want to get his hopes up. So after the first trimester, we did go ahead and tell him that I was pregnant, and he was very excited, especially when he found out he was having a little brother. He was very excited. So he wanted to go to the 20-week anatomy scan, which we went through a private pay type ultrasound company. It wasn't anything at the hospital or anything like that. So he was able to sit there with us on a couch and look at the big screen to see his little brother. We get to the appointment, and the ultrasound tech doesn't ever turn the big screen on yet until she knows for sure that everything is okay. So after about 5 minutes or so, she wasn't saying a word. She kind of had this look on her face like something was wrong, but she didn't know how to say. And the heartbeat was still there. Heartbeat sounded phenomenal, was in the 160s, I believe. Was still really good. But I knew something was wrong because the look on her face was off. So she excused herself and said she needed to call my midwife and talk to her first before she could come in and tell me anything. At that point, I ran to the bathroom because, one, I had to empty my bladder because they make you come in with a full bladder. But secondly, to start crying because I knew something was wrong. I had a gut feeling that something was wrong. And all she was able to tell us, because she's an ultrasound tech and not really able to diagnose anything, she was only able to tell us that our baby had a big cyst on the back of his head that was actually bigger than his head. So very huge cyst on the back of his head. And that he had fluid around his organs. And that's all she was able to tell us. And this was on a Saturday, so I wasn't even able to, I talked to my midwife after I was able to kind of settle myself down to the best of my ability. I spoke with my midwife, and she was going to get all the paperwork done, and she was already going to send it off to the specialist at Texas Children's in Houston, so I could try to get an appointment as soon as possible to get officially diagnosed, so the baby could get officially diagnosed. So of course you're trying to finish out that weekend and try to go to work. You're trying to go to work and act like everything is okay when you know it's not, and that was very hard. Thankfully my work was very understanding. Thankfully the doctor called me that Monday, and was able to get me in the next day. So I took the rest of the day off. My boss let me take the rest of the day off and gave my patients to another therapist, and I was able to go home and pack a bag so my husband and I could go stay in Houston, stay the night, so we weren't that far from the medical center for the appointment, because it was first thing in the morning. And my midwife met us there the next morning. That night before the appointment, my husband and I sat in the hotel room and we just talked, and we decided, we had very, very serious conversation about what to expect and what we would do in certain aspects of the situation. And we, decided if there was just no possible way that this baby was going to survive, then we would opt for the termination of the pregnancy. And because for my physical health and well-being, that would have been the safer way to go. So we get to the appointment the next day. Okay, bear with me, I'm sorry. We get there, and the ultrasound takes like an hour. They did a full body scan of the baby, 3D and 2D, so they could see everything. And then the doctor comes in, reviews everything, and then comes and starts looking in other places as well. So yes, she confirmed the cyst on his head. And then after that, it started piling up. All the complications were just piling up. And it was very hard. We had to take multiple breaks for me to digest what was being said. And try not to tear up. I'm sorry. I apologize. He had the big cyst on the back of his head, and like what was determined with the first ultrasound. And then she told us that his heart was not fully developed. He only had 3 chambers instead of 4, and he had the hydrops, which is, most of you know, is when you have fluid all around your major organs. So he had a underdeveloped heart fighting all this extra fluid, putting pressure on it. And he had no chin. She couldn't find his chin. It was just like almost like he didn't have his lower jaw. And he had cleft feet, so his feet were, very close together. And he had little to no brain activity, which would explain why I rarely felt him move. Like I never could feel him move, even at 20 weeks. And I was feeling my firstborn, I was feeling him at 16 weeks. So I just thought maybe he just wasn't a big mover. I don't know. You kind of put ideas in your head because you want to believe that everything is okay. So the doctor told me and my husband that the way that the fluid was pushing on his heart, he was going to go into heart failure. And he had so many things fighting against him that he wouldn't make it 3 more days. So we made the decision, the very hard decision, which I never thought in my life I would ever have to make. I was always a pro-life supporter all my life, because I just could not imagine who in their right mind would do this. But even with the doctor, even though she never could technically, she can't legally tell me that the termination would have been the better route to go. She explained to me that, the termination process would be, they would go in, stop the baby's heart, and then remove the baby from my uterus. And we made that decision to do that because my husband and I felt that putting me through induction, labor, delivery with a baby that died would be a lot more traumatic than being put to sleep and having the baby taken out while I was asleep. So we were able to get that appointment set, but I'll get to that in a minute. We went and spoke with the genetic counselor after all that, and asked all the questions. Anybody in your family have Down syndrome, have this, which nobody in my family has any kind of genetic disorder. Nobody in my husband's family has any kind of genetic disorder close enough to where it would have affected us. So they wanted to perform the amniocentesis, which we refused because at the time we thought we were never going to have another baby. Like, there's no way. After this experience, there was no way we were going to have another baby. So we refused to do the amniocentesis, and also because insurance probably would not have covered it because I had already done the previous genetic screen, which all came back normal, by the way, like I said earlier. So we call, there's a gnat flying around. So we call that day to the one clinic in Houston that did late term abortions. And we got that appointment set up. They told us how much it was going to cost up front, and we had to pay in cash because their card machines weren't working or something of the line. I don't really remember. That whole week was pretty blurred and meshed together. My husband was my rock throughout the whole thing because he took care of everything. Because he knew that I couldn't, and he helped me with everything. My mom came down to help with our son to kind of keep him occupied because we just couldn't bear to put him through that again. We knew we were going to have to tell him, but we weren't going to tell him exactly the details, and I probably won't until he's a lot older, just because his little mind wouldn't be able to handle that right now. So now it's Wednesday, and we go in. I had to fast because they were going to put me under, and at the appointment with the specialist, his heart rate was still at about 150 to 160. By the next day, they had to do another ultrasound because in the state of Texas, for a late term abortion or termination, you have to see that baby one more time to make sure that you are absolutely sure that you want to do that. Which I don't particularly agree with, but like I said, I'm not getting political with this. I'm just telling you what happened. So he has to do one more ultrasound to make sure that we are absolutely sure that we want to do this. Which, no, I didn't want to do this, but what kind of quality of life would my baby have had if he even would have made it to due date and be delivered? He wouldn't have survived. He had no brain activity. His heart was failing. You know what? I didn't want to make that choice, but I had to. And it was very hard. Okay, I'm all right. I'm sorry. So I refused to look at it. I couldn't see him again. My husband did. So the doctor told us that that doctor that was going to perform the procedure told us that we were making the right choice because his heart was already failing. His heart rate within 24 hours, his heart rate had dropped from 160 to 60 beats a minute. So he was already in heart failure. If we would have given it another day, he would have been gone. And then I would have had to have been induced and delivered a stillborn. So at that point, we knew we were doing the right thing, even though we hated the fact that we had to do it this way. And it was a 2-day process. So they put me under the first day, and they stick a needle into my stomach to stop his heart completely. And then they insert, I think it was seaweed. I don't remember what exactly it was, but it was these little tubes, and it was like seaweed or something, and it was a natural dilator to help my cervix dilate. So for the next day, it wouldn't be as hard to take him out. Now, since this was technically an abortion clinic, I was not allowed to see him, but I did ask my doctor to give me his footprints if he could. I said, if you could just do one thing for me, let me have his footprints so I have something. Something of his to remember. I'm sorry. I thought I was going to do a lot better with this than I am. I guess we're only human, right? So the next day, I had to be put under again. And they took him out. And when I woke up, I knew. And I started shaking uncontrollably. And the nurse just thought I was cold. So she comes and puts a blanket on me or something. And I'm like, no, I'm not cold. I'm sad. And I get it, because these abortion clinics usually don't deal with my situation. They deal with the women that just don't want to be pregnant anymore. My situation was very rare. And so and I understand, like, they have to almost be heartless, or they have to pretend to be heartless, because they can't get attached to all these women who are losing babies, because they're going to cry, and they can't cry because then they get emotionally involved. So I get it, but man, my husband couldn't be in there with me, so I felt very alone. Just take a minute. Okay. So my husband takes me home so I can rest, and we, had to make the calls to everybody. He made the calls to everybody. Like I said, he was my rock through this whole thing. I don't know what I would have done without him. And So I was pretty much told to rest for about a week or so, then I would, be okay to start being active again. I took a couple of weeks off of work because that's all I was able to afford to take because of PT. I didn't have enough PTO to take off more time. And it was around Christmas time, so we really couldn't afford it because we had Christmas coming. And so I apologize for how dark and detailed this was. I've written down the story a million times to see if that would help, because I always hear that journaling is good, but I think really getting it out into the public, I hope that it makes a difference in somebody's life. My best friend was amazing. The best thing that anybody could have done to help us, she did. And I didn't even ask her to. She just got up and did it. And I got home that day to a refrigerator full of food. She spent the whole day cooking up a bunch of food for my family so we wouldn't have to worry about having to cook. And I will always be grateful for her for that. And oh gosh, I'm so sorry. I thought I was going to be more informational and not as emotional, but I guess I'm not doing a very good job of that. So I wanted to make this video because I want women to know, if you've ever have gone through any kind of loss, I don't care if it was an early miscarriage, late term pregnancy loss, stillborn, infertility, anything that pertains to losing a child, you are not alone. And know that you're not alone. And if friends ask you what they can do for you, tell them what you need. Don't expect them to know what to do for you, because they're not going to have a clue. They don't understand at all. And even the best thing that my friends could do for me was, like I said, my best friend brought me food. She didn't even wait for me to get home to hug me or anything. She just dropped off food and left, because she knew that I am the kind of person that when I'm ready for her to come sit with me and let me cry, she will be there. And that's what I needed. I didn't need to be hovered by a bunch of people. I don't do well with that. And unless it's to take my mind off of it. But what I needed was for somebody just to sit there and listen. That's all I needed. I just wanted to talk about him because he existed. He existed, even if it was just for a short 20 weeks. He existed. And he will always be here, right here in my heart. And my son still talks about him. He wishes that he was here. He misses his little brother a lot. He's very excited for his little sister to get here, but he misses his little brother. And all I can say after making this very emotional video, which I apologize for that. I didn't mean to get so emotional, but I guess we're only human, right? That we are not alone. We have people that love us. They may not know what to do. They may not know what to say, and sometimes may even say the wrong thing that doesn't help at all. My biggest one was that I could not stand to hear was God has a plan. Well, God must have had a plan. Well, why was his plan to take away my baby? I don't want to hear that. I don't. I want you to sit there, maybe bring me a bottle of wine, and let me talk. That's it. Maybe even a pizza. That's all I wanted. I didn't want to be hovered by people. I didn't want people trying to say sweet things. I couldn't handle it. I just couldn't handle it. My husband, like I said, was very good and did a very good job of taking me out to eat to different places to kind of help me get my mind off of things. He did a very good job of getting me out of the house so I wouldn't isolate myself, because then I start overthinking, which I'm sure most women do. And that's pretty much my story. After that, I had to get off of Facebook and social media for a while, because at that time, New York was passing their law about late-term abortions and all that hoopla. And I was having people that were very good friends of mine downgrade women who could how could you possibly want to abort a child? What could possibly go through your, what gives you the right to terminate a pregnancy? And I kept seeing that and feeling like I personally was being judged, even though my circumstances are way different than who they're referring to, but it still made me feel that way. So I had to do a social media cleanse and get off of social media for a while, and it helped tremendously. I am back on, and now with the election and everything happening, like, I see more posts about it, but I've now gotten to where I can just scroll past it and not even look, because my circumstances, they can't cover, they can't judge me for that. And I know that now. And if they try, I don't care, because I know I did the right thing for myself and for my son, so he would not suffer anymore. I could not let him suffer anymore. And so if you're watching this and you try to bring politics into this, I will not comment. I will not get into an argument, because I don't want to. That's not what this video is for. This video is to let other women know that they are not alone. And if any of you want to reach out to me personally and talk to me about anything you're going through, if it was a miscarriage, late loss, whatever happened, you can message me on my Instagram at Island Mama Life. I will be happy to even if it's just give a listening ear or to read your vent. If you need to vent to somebody who you know would understand what you're going through, message me. You can direct message me. I will not hesitate to read it and respond back to you and give you my best regards and my prayers, because that's all I wanted from people. And yeah, if you need to ask a question, if you have more questions about what I went through or anything of the sort, or if you just need to vent because you have gone through something of the liking where a baby was lost or you were not able to conceive. I've never had infertility issues, but I do know of people that have, and they might even be willing to lend an ear if needed. So I think this is going to be the end of this video. I'm sorry again for the waterworks. I tried really hard not to get myself emotional, but I haven't spoken the entirety of the story in such a long time that it came back and hit me. And of course, pregnancy hormones probably aren't helping right now. But I know in my heart that he is looking down on us and watching over his big brother and his baby sister, who is due very soon. So take care. Like I said, I'm at Island Mama Life on Instagram. You can direct message me, and I will be happy to talk to anybody about it. Like I said, if you're wanting to try to get political, don't message me. I will not respond. I'm only here to help others. That is my purpose for this video. And yeah, so take care. And this was a bonus video, so I will probably not have another video regarding my pregnancy probably until next week. So stay tuned, and I hope you have a great day. It's almost the weekend, guys. We can do it. Take care. Bye.